I'm Robert, voluntary fact checker, and helping you if you're scared of many things. And in my previous video I talked how there's no risk of this harming you if you're outside the Middle East. And so now I want to look at the people who are in the Middle East. And obviously there is a level of risk if you are in Tehran or you're in Iran. But we need to put it in perspective. For those of you who've got friends in Tehran and in Iran generally, then so long as they take basic precautions, it can greatly reduce their risk. And so this is advice for civilians in Israel. It's similar if you're in Israel, but Israel is much better protected than Iran is. And so everyone in Israel knows what to do. So there are people now sheltering in Tehran, and these basic instructions, but you probably have found out by now what you need to do. And so it's you go into a protected place, you sit on the floor below the window, you need to be protected from glass flying out of the window. It's about, if you're in the open country, lie down and protect your head with your hands, and basic advice like that. Go into the nearest building or sheltered spot. And there's advice in Iran is keeping its subway system open 24/7. That's been very effective in Ukraine, for instance, in Kharkiv. During the bombing of Kharkiv, the civilians spent much of the time in the subway system. So if you are concerned about your house and you can get to a subway system and they have it open 24/7, that should be very safe. And also mosques, schools and subway tunnels are the main places where people can be protected in Tehran. And in other places in Iran, there's the ways you can look for the stairwell and places like that. Look for the most protected places inside your house, and so on. Israel is not targeting civilians, and it can't. You may have seen these stories about everyone has seen these huge bombs that destroy entire buildings in one go in Gaza Strip and entire skyscrapers even, and the same in Lebanon. When they were going after Hezbollah and people in neighbours regions of Lebanon. Iran can't fly these to Tehran. It's just too far away. It's only got the F-16s. They could do it with the help of refueling air tankers from the United States, but they're not going to supply them to help Iran to attack civilians. It's not the where it's going to go. If they do get more US strikes, it's pretty clear that they would be doing their own missions. They would be in charge of what they're doing, and they would keep a distance and they'd drop these things on. They're very careful about not harming civilians, the Americans, and their big airstrike wouldn't have harmed any civilians. Extremely precise weapons. They're only at military targets. So that's the situation, that you're reasonably safe from Israel because of the distance, because they can't carry their very big bombs there, and because they are targeting on military targets, and you don't have the Hamas living in tunnels below your house, which was part of the reason why they were doing these big bombs on houses. So unless you are in, for instance, rented accommodation or shared house with an admiral or general or a nuclear scientist in Tehran or something that might be targeted as with assassination missions, then you should be pretty safe. And your risk is, you can't be totally safe, but your risk is very low. I think it's good to compare it with traffic accidents. So, for instance, the worst week of traffic accidents in 2024, over 300 Iranians were killed in traffic accidents during a holiday season rush. And during the week of the first week of the Israeli attacks on Iran, it was 260 civilians killed in a week, so that's slightly less than those traffic accident figures, and 335 injured. It is, however, very high. It's partly there's a very large population, of 90 million in Iran, and it's not quite as large in Ukraine, but also Ukraine, it's got better air defences. It's got air defences that can shoot down a lot of incoming missiles, whereas Iran's got nothing that works anymore. And even with the Russians doing their worst, the Ukrainian civilian casualties for April were 209 for the entire month. Civilians killed, 1,146 injured. So these numbers are quite high for Iran. It's partly because it's got no air defences. And so they're quite high compared with Ukraine, equivalent to 1 month of Ukraine war, with 1 week in Iran. But compared with the population of Iran and with traffic accidents, it's low, and there are many things you can do to reduce your risk. And the risk to Israelis is much lower because they've got excellent air defences. So they do have some incoming ballistic missiles, but most of them get shot down. So those are the people for which there is a risk in the region. Now I just want to look at my larger thing down here. So that's I think it's quite a few pages down, where I was with my previous video, and the very start of it, it's just this bit we need to look at. So if you've got friends in Iraq, or you live in Iraq, or you live in other areas in the region, then your ballistic missiles from Iraq, they are in space when they're travelling over Iraq, the ballistic missiles from Iran. And although they're rather imprecise, they're only precise to hundreds of meters, there's no way they're accidentally going to land in Iraq. And then the only main risk would be things like cruise and drone missiles, but those get shot down pretty easily. And the risk would be from some debris from shooting them down, and listening to your government and pay to whatever attention your government says about precautions you need to take for any actions they're taking. And so the risk of other countries apart from Iraq and Israel in the area is extremely low. Now, you get people worrying because for instance, some US naval and military bases in the Persian Gulf, and like for instance Bahrain. And you can imagine a situation in the future if, I'm going to do a separate video about the Hormuz Strait, is quite an unlikely thing to happen. So if the Parliament voted to close the Hormuz Strait, that means nothing, because Ayatollah can veto that, and he surely will. Iran has never closed the Hormuz Strait. It's a very unlikely thing for them to do. On the remote chance that they do it, then the US Navy would get involved in clearing the Strait, the Strait of Hormuz, and it'd be operating from US bases around there. There could be a possibility of the Iranians trying to attack, for instance, Bahrain. What you need to know there is that the US has very excellent air defences, and unless you're very close to the US bases, those are going to be the targets. And even if you're in the bases, then their air defences, given the very limited means that Iran now has, much fewer ballistic missiles, probably shoot everything down. And even though they're inaccurate, they're only inaccurate with up to hundreds of meters. So unless you're very close to a base in Bahrain, then even if there was Iran firing missiles at the base and them being shot down and everything, then your risk is really pretty low there as well. And as with the Tehran, then your government would give instructions very likely if such a situation arises. There would be precautions to do, and to places you can go. Even if there aren't enough bomb shelters in your country, then you can do these same basic precautions that the Israelis do and that the Iranians are doing in Tehran. And anyone anywhere else, if you're in Jordan, if you're in Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, anywhere else, then there's really no risk from this war. So that's when I said here, so there's no risk of world war. It can't fight the world and doesn't want to. And this is about how even if you're in the Middle East, then the risk of civilian casualties is very low if you take all the right precautions. And even if you're in Tehran, then it's roughly equivalent to the risk of a traffic accident in a very busy holiday season in Iran. And there are some places you can go that are very safe. If you've got access to a subway, then you're likely to be very safe down there. And the ways you can do to make your home much safer too. And same with Israel, they have their bomb shelters, and people can go very quickly to the bomb shelters. So Israel is very well set up to be protected. So that's why even if you're in the Middle East, the risk is very low. And there's nobody going to, as I said in my previous videos in this series, nobody's going to come in on. There's the only reason that Israel could fly to Iran is because there are no Russian soldiers left in Syria. There's no Russian soldiers in Iran. It's never helped the Iranian regime. And so just very quickly mention these basic points. Israel has got total air control over Iran, and Iran has been desperate for modern fighter jets or modern air defences, and neither Russia nor China is willing to spend billions of dollars on this. It's quite a wealthy country, Iran. It could spend billions of dollars on fighter jets if only someone would supply it with them, and nobody will. So they have ancient fighter jets that they can't fly against the F-16s. They would be shot out of the sky before they could see the F-16s, so they just fly away and hide in caves. And that's all they can do. And nobody is willing to sell Iran modern fighter jets. So that shows, it's very clear that Russia and China are not on Iran's side in this war, and none of its neighbours are. In the Middle East, Iran is really rather unpopular in the area. They wouldn't side with Israel, but the Arab neighbours of Iran are not going to help Iran to fight against Israel. No way. They're not even considering that. And in some ways, they'd be quite relieved if Iran's ambitions in the area are somewhat reduced as a result of what's going on. So hopefully this helps you, for those who are scared about civilian casualties in the area in the Middle East. So this is the second part of my video, where a slightly changed title. There's no risk at all if you're outside the Middle East. If you're in the Middle East, there's very low risk of civilian casualties, even if you live in Tehran or in Israel or in Iran. So now just the usual thing I send at the end of my videos. So the blog post is in the video description. I'm going to add these videos gradually to the blog post. I'm going to do a playlist of all the videos that I've done for this blog post once I'm finished. And so go to the video description and you can click on the blog post, find the other videos I've done in there. You can, if you go to the end, then it tells you about contact details, it tells you about our group, Facebook Debunked, and how if you want to help with either debunking like I'm doing, or if you want to help with helping scared people, or you're scared yourself and you need help, then all the contact details there, as well as my own personal contact details. So that's that. I'll upload this video now.